Invisibility, second level illusion spell. Concentration up to 1 hour. A creature you touch becomes invisible until the spell ends. Anything the target is wearing or carrying is invisible as long as it is on the target's person. The spell ends for a target that attacks or casts the spell. According to the rules for invisibility, as set in the player's handbook 5th edition, anything that is worn or carried turns invisible with you whenever you turn invisible. So what's to stop me, an elven wizard, from picking up my halfling rogue and then turning myself invisible, and I'm technically carrying him, so he should turn invisible too, right? I mean, that's how the rule is worded. No DM in the entire universe is going to let that fly because it's not in the spirit of the rule. And that's really what this video is about, is that rules, even in the player's handbook, are fallible. They can be broken. Hello, fellow denizens of the internet. My name is Chase Taylor DM, and today we're going to be talking about rules and how rules are not rules. Most rules in Dungeons & Dragons make sense. Whether it's, player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, a vast majority of the rules make sense. There is a reason for why there is this rule and why it's worded in such a way, and 98% of the time I follow the rules to a T. However, there are certain exceptions of things that I change because it's either too broken or too weak, or sometimes things that I just don't like the way it works mechanically, and so I'll change it up a bit to make it more fun, more interesting, more exciting, more fresh for my players. And ultimately, that is the Dungeon Master's job, is to be a proctor for their games. Even whether they're running a pre-made adventure like Lost Mines of Phandelver or Storm King's Thunder, or if they have their own homebrew campaign, it is ultimately their job to make rulings on whether or not you can do such a thing as a player. The DM is the physics and the rules of the land. Let me give you a few examples. Let's take a look at an example of a Dungeon Master taking a core mechanic in the game and totally changing it for their campaign setting's purpose. Let's say that the DM is running a campaign that's a Star Wars based campaign, or something where it's Star Wars, Star Trek, a space exploration type of setting. Maybe one of the planets you go on is really small, like moon size to be equivalent. Now, I'm sure all of you have seen footage of people walking on the moon, allegedly, where they're walking and they're kind of doing that bunny walking, hopping around. That's because low gravity. They aren't able to move as quickly and they kind of bounce around a little bit. So maybe you take the core mechanics of movement that are in the player's handbook and say, fuck that, we don't need any of that. We're going to be having it to where your movement speed is halved, but your jumping height and distance is doubled, or the DC for any sort of acrobatics checks are halved, anything like that, because of the fact that there is lower gravity on this planet. And that's totally okay. That's fine, that's fun, that's interesting. Maybe you guys go to a different plane of existence where those types of rules apply. Doesn't matter. The DM can say, yeah, gravity's different, so all these mechanics you're used to, totally different. And that can be fun and exciting. Maybe you are a dungeon master and you really love this one monster and you love running them, but you've run them so many times that you're kind of getting bored of it. Change it up. Make variants of it. Maybe you just love Displacer Beasts. They're just such an interesting, unique type of monster, but they're kind of stale after a while. I mean, I'm pretty sure they only CR 3 creatures, so you kind of can only use them so much. But maybe you make changes. Maybe instead of a pure black pelt on the Displacer Beast, maybe they have like leopard's fur and their movement speed is doubled, or they have like a bonus action dashed, so that way they can increase their movement. Maybe they have such and such abilities. Maybe they have different changes to them that make them more fun and interesting. Anytime that I've tried to introduce like a minor change to a creature, whether it's just making it look different and making it have a different type of attack, usually I get met with, that's not what I'm used to, but I still like it. That's pretty cool. So maybe think about making some monster variants in your campaign. Make sure you don't overdo something and make it to where, oh yeah, this thing has 5 attacks as an action in one round. Try to make sure it's remotely balanced, or maybe you increase its movement speed and dexterity to make it a faster Displacer Beast, but you make its damage a little bit lower because it's just doing quick swipes or something. Who knows? It's up to you as the Dungeon Master to make these types of changes if you see fit. Or maybe you love Displacer Beasts the way they are and you're going to follow the core rule set. Nothing wrong with that either. The perfect example that I can think of someone having no rule set on something is magic item cost. Technically there is a table that says like between such and such price for different items, rarity and stuff like that. but there is no set item price for things. How much is a +1 enchanted longsword? What's the cost? I guarantee you ask 10 different DMs that question, they're going to give you 10 different answers. Or maybe like 8 or 9, because some are probably just going to round up and be like 1,000 or 2,000 gold or something like that. But it just depends. It depends on your campaign setting. Maybe your DM is running a world where there are a lot of magical items in the world. Magical enchanted longswords, dime a dozen. You can get that thing at Dollar Mart for like 50 gold. It's fine. Or you live in a campaign setting where magic items are a lot rarer. So maybe you can't even find a lot of magical items except for like in ancient tombs and dungeons. So you have to go dungeon delving in order to get your magical items. You have to earn it. You can't just go to a magic shop and buy it. Or maybe even if you can find it at a magic shop, it's 5,000-6,000 gold because it is so incredibly rare. An example of something that's in the 5th edition Player's Handbook is inspiration, and I do inspiration differently. So, in the Player's Handbook, inspiration is done to where if you play to your character, if you role play your character on their quirks or their personality or their bonds or their flaws, if you play to your character, even if it's a way that detriments you, like maybe you're a character who's too trusting and you totally, even though you as the player know that this guy's swindling you, he's giving you a deal that no, that's not good for you. You know that your character would know, I really want this and I'm totally taking this deal even knowing that it's bad for you. Go ahead and take your inspiration, sonny. The way I do it is essentially, sure, if you do something like that, maybe I'll give you inspiration, but the way I do it is just in a funsy kind of way, because I played Dungeons & Dragons to have fun. So the way I do it is, oh, you did something really unique or interesting, or you took a challenge I presented to you and totally turned it around on itself and solved it in a way that I couldn't even think of. Inspiration to you, good sir. I tip my hat that I'm not wearing because I have spiky hair. Yeah, that's an example of me doing something that, according to the rules, should be done a different way, but just the way I like to do it is a little bit different. Sure, maybe I'll follow that rule sometimes, but other times I might decide to give you inspiration for a totally different reason. A rule set that I see in the show Critical Role, with Matthew Mercer and all those other nerdy-ass voice actors who sit around playing Dungeons & Dragons, I see that Matthew Mercer has a unique rule that I'm fairly sure is not in the Player's Handbook. I've not seen it. I've not seen it in the DM's Guide, where if you cast a spell as an action, then you can cast another spell as a bonus action if it has bonus action as its required time, but it can only be 2nd level or lower. And so I'm just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. It makes it to where whenever you get to higher levels, because whenever I see players at higher levels, they're using their 7th, 5th, and 3rd level spells and whatnot, but they're rarely using those 1st or 2nd level spells because whenever you're fighting, ancient black dragon, Thunderwave, maybe not the best spell to use as a 1st level spell, but having your bard cast a spell to do some damage to the dragon, and then as a bonus action doing a healing word as a 2nd level, you know what, that's worth it. That's not broken, it's not OP, and it just makes it where your character has a little bit more that they can do. Makes you a little bit more versatile, and it makes ultimately the game a little bit more fun. This video is for both dungeon masters who are new to the game and are still trying to figure out when they can mend or bend or break a rule or insert their own rule set into a campaign setting, as well as for players to understand that sometimes your dungeon master is going to have different rules. And even though something might be phrased in the Player's Handbook a certain way, that's not necessarily what it means. Well, I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a comment, talk to me if there's anything about rules or examples that you think of as like, well, this is actually something I do in my campaign, is I change this rule because I think it's actually kind of fucking retarded. If there's something like that, please tell me in the comment section below. I'm happy to have a conversation about Dungeons & Dragons anytime. Other than that, that is it. So I will see you next time. Chase Taylor signing off.